Hello, Wacom community. It's Cartoon Mike Morris here to let you college level animators know that you only have until this Friday before midnight to submit your portfolios to be a featured artist on Cartoon Crunch, our 5-part reality show type miniseries about cartoon making. This is your chance to get a taste of what being on a production is like and get paid to do it. So see the link below to submit your portfolio and blow us away with your amazing art. We'll see you soon.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, and welcome to Connected Inc. We are very, very excited today to be discussing with Mike Morris, introducing Mike Morris, a mentor, an animator, and a real leader in the animation community. So we'd like to bring Mike on now, and we're going to be discussing Cartoon Crunch. Mike?
Hi, Don. How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. Just here in my home office in sunny California.
Nice. I'm here, as you can see, in our office in not so sunny Portland. Very, very gray day.
That's kind of nice, actually. I love overcast days personally because it's usually sunny in California, and we have a weird thing now where there's like false seasons. So it'll get cold, then it'll get hot, and it'll get cold, and it'll get hot. So California's a little confused as to what its weather wants to be.
So we'll get to it a little later, but we've been doing so much with you, Mike. Maybe you should just come up here and join us.
Hey, you know what? Just let me know when you want me to come up, and we'll come for a visit.
All right. So for the next hour or so, we're going to be discussing a very inspired and hopefully inspiring bit of creative chaos, which is Cartoon Crunch. So first, I kind of wanted to start out with you, Mike, and give everyone a feel for who you are and what you do and the things that you do in your professional life in animation.
Yeah, well, I started in animation in about 2006. At the time, The Simpsons was recruiting for their show because they were doing the movie at the time. And so my family growing up, I'd never really watched The Simpsons very much, but my wife introduced me to it, and we loved it. And so when the opportunity came up, I jumped on it, and I ended up working at The Simpsons in total for almost 9 years. And but I've done other things in animation since. Like at The Simpsons, I went from character layout artist and went to doing storyboard revisions and then storyboards. Later, I got to work on a show at Disney Television called Future Worm. I got to intern at Disney Feature Animation while they were doing Princess and the Frog.
Nice.
Done some development for Warner Brothers. And then most currently, I'm at Bento Box Entertainment on a show called Housebroken.
Very cool.
Where I'm an episodic director at the moment.
Right. And very busy.
Yes, very busy. It was funny. It was when we were planning Cartoon Crunch, and we were about to go into principal photography when I got the call to say, "Hey, we'd like to hire you as a director." So I was like, "All right, well, I guess I'm doing both now."
Exactly. So I know this has been a really busy time. We very much appreciate you making the time to be with us today, to both present Cartoon Crunch and really share kind of your story around animation. I'm sure that we have some young animators watching today who would appreciate some advice from you on animation and how to get into the industry of animation. But I think all of that's a great segue to talking about our core subject, which is Cartoon Crunch, which is a program for young animators and students. So I think without further ado, Peter, if you'll roll that first trailer, just to give people a quick glimpse of what we're going to be talking about today in Cartoon Crunch.
Let's see that sizzle reel.
So, Mike, as I said, you've been a great friend and a collaborator with Wacom for a long time. Done a lot of cool projects with people at Wacom in the space of animation around different events, usually live events, but obviously since COVID, online. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the background, some of the things that you've done with Wacom in the past before we dive right into Crunch?
Well, sure. Yeah, I started getting connected with Wacom at the CTN Expo, where I met a few of the people that on the events team that I still do a lot of stuff with. Tom Feston, who eventually produced Cartoon Crunch, was one of my first Wacom friends. And so the first thing that we did was at a CTNX, actually. It was called the Cintiq Showdown. And that was sort of like a head-to-head drawing competition, tournament style, where we'd generate like a random prompt, and they would have 10 minutes to draw it. We've done a few of them. And then we turned our attention to another project. This one was called Animation Dance Party. And that one was all about, we were taking and doing sort of like a community group animation project. And you can find these on, well, at least the Animation Dance Party, you can find that on the Wacom YouTube site. But we had people make animated cycles to like a predetermined beat, and they could we composited everybody in together into one big animated dance party. So that was a lot of fun to do those live events and be in that environment where everybody is really excited. You know, I think the largest Cintiq Showdown that we had, we filled one of the ballrooms. So it was really cool. And then for Animation Dance Party, not only did we have an animated dance party, but we had a real dance party as well at one of the ballrooms in Pasadena, where we did at Lightbox Expo,
Yep.
Which was a really great thing. But one of the things that was really interesting and kind of odd about doing the switch, you know, I call it the COVID switch. So we went from doing these live events and just flipped it right over, and now everything was completely digital, which I think had some good and bad sort of, well, not bad necessarily, but just different. So I really enjoyed all the energy of the live events, but I feel like with all these digital events that we're doing now, our reach has grown significantly. So, I mean, that was a big paradigm shift, you know, for
Yep.
me especially, because when this first started happening, it was March, and we started talking a little bit about, you know, what was going to be happening. And was on the phone, I believe, with Melissa Ashcraft and Tom Feston and Peter, who's actually running the display that you guys are all seeing now. And we'll be referring to Peter here and there as time goes on during this. And it was all of a sudden, content was what everybody needed, right? Everybody needed content, and it didn't matter like how short or how long it was, you know, just as long as you had some, because all live events had been canceled, gone.
Yep.
And so we started doing a little bit of brainstorming, and we came up with a few ideas on a list. So this was exactly how that brainstorm happened. And the first thing that we did right up the gate was a little event called Animation Panel Palooza. And Animation Panel Palooza was it started out with a very educational and informative segment, which was four of us, myself, Mr. Pete Michaels, Carly Melder, and Victoria Ying, as she likes to be called. I just knew her as Vicky earlier. So this was an animation panel that we did talking about like getting into the industry, talking about what you should do to have a good portfolio. You know, tips and tricks and things of how to like break into the animation industry and what you should do when you get there. One of the things I remember Vicky saying most notably was, your portfolio is only as good as its worst piece.
Mm-hmm.
So again, for any of you who are watching this, who are young animators, go on to Wacom's YouTube channel and look for Animation Panelpalooza, and it's the first segment, and I think you guys will get a lot out of that. But we also went right after that into games, because one of the things that was a part of COVID was that everybody was at home now and feeling a little isolated. This was before video chats and things like that really became a thing. We were just really starting to get that done, and everybody was still in the whole mode of, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you see me?" Which I think we all still do, but a little less.
Are we out of that one now?
I don't know. You think? Maybe it won't ever go away. I don't know.
Maybe it won't ever. Yeah.
Hopefully someday we'll get those like Star Wars holograms or something. That'd be really cool. Yeah. I know VR is really trying to get some of that stuff going, but I digress. So we had a little game called Doodle Decode, which was really fun, where we were drawing from, like, we had taken a prompt and split it into two, and then two artists would start drawing one side, and the other one would draw the other side, and then the third one would try and put the two together and guess what the statement was. And that was a lot of fun. And we had a timer, and I got to host it, which was a good time. And then I got to sort of have my Alex Trebek moment. May his soul rest in peace. Unfortunately, yes. Alex Trebek was such a cool guy. But we had a game called Trivia Mash. And we had Kalia Chang, who previously was a producer at Marvel Studios. I believe she's on to some other super cool project right now. A friend of mine who I knew from my intern days, Randeep Katari, who was in the green there. And then one of the directors that I worked with on DuckTales when I was on that show at Disney Television, Tanner Johnson, who is a wealth of animation knowledge and a general factoid maniac in the first place. I mean, but we were having these fun games and being able to not only have a little bit of animation history happening there, but also something that we thought was pretty entertaining and fun for people to watch. The last thing we did was Ultimate Pictionary, which was a good time. That one, instead of like drawing physical objects, we really tried to get something really interesting and unique and give them sort of like ethereal concepts, like the old Simpsons joke, how do you draw decency, so we had things that were like more concept-like as opposed to physical objects. Because as artists, a lot of times nobody wants to play Pictionary with us because either they want to recruit us right away for their team or they don't want to play with us at all. So this was a way that we could do that and have a good time just like challenging ourselves. But I think one of the biggest things that came out of Animation Panelpalooza was Team Chat. Are you familiar with Team Chat?
Oh, yes. Yeah, very much so.
So for those of you who weren't around for Animation Panelpalooza, Team Chat ended up being a sort of a phenomenon for us. We had about 500 people in the Zoom chat, give or take 100 or so, that were just like getting together and talking about animation. And I remember opening up the chat once just to see what people are saying and almost crashed my computer, which was bonkers. Yet there was just so much activity going on in Team Chat. But they started talking about things like, hey, let's get together. What about, we can make an animated short or something. We'll do it all online. We'll have a little team that we can get together and we'll make something. We'll talk animation. Because I think people were really at that point just dying for community, you know, a sense of feeling and belonging, which is a fairly common trait among artists. I feel like just the need and want for a good community to belong to, you know. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm just getting a little feed that we have a little bit of technical difficulty, Mike. Let me just check in really fast with Pete. But we can continue this conversation on this. I think one of the super interesting things, again, was, seeing just how many people were really excited to talk about animation and to learn about animation. And that response just being overwhelming and very, very encouraging for the types of activities we were doing.
Yeah, and it was really indicative of that desire to create animated content. I truly believe that animation transcends so many different barriers, whether they be cultural or political or any number of different things. It just sort of sidesteps some of those issues that we have just between people. And is universally one of the most beloved mediums on the planet, regularly outperforming some of their live action counterparts. But anyways,
yeah, so certainly that trend toward animation has been just massive, right? And obviously, especially during COVID, it has a lot of advantages. But I think that well, I certainly learned from Panelpalooza that I know nothing about animation compared to you and your fellow panelists, who are incredible sources of knowledge. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a very exciting time. It must be a fantastic time to be an animator.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, everybody's looking for content all over the place right now, and it's funny because animation is one of the few businesses that never went out of operation. We just all work from home now, and it has started to make a really strong case for virtual studios, which is going to be an interesting thing to see if more and more of that starts to pop up in the professional realm. So,
okay,
we kind of got to thinking about Team Chat a little bit more, and went back to our brainstorming list. And I know we had talked about in the first initial phases when we were talking Cartoon Crunch, Don. We were on, a meeting with and a few other people, and discussing one of the initiatives that you were really focusing on at the moment, which was the Never Stop Learning initiative.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the really, really important things as COVID kicked in, and as we were right on the edge of summer, but art students were getting sent home. They were losing out on some of the education that they were getting live, and so Wacom really wanted to give back in that situation, and we wanted to come up with things that would be both inspiring and educational for young animators, for anyone interested in animation, to kind of keep that process growing and that engagement with the student community going, even though they had to, physically leave campuses and return home.
Yeah, and I think that was. It's kind of funny. I saw a lot of memes about, different types of people that were, sort of displaced by COVID, and all of them were having just terrible, terrible fits at home, just bored and whatever. And then there's the artist who's just all by himself in a room, fun. I'm fine,
Yep.
Which was kind of funny for most of us. Like, where it's some people's nightmare, it was the introverted artist, like, absolute dream. You mean I don't have to go anywhere ever? Oh my goodness. It was just like, this is everything I've ever wanted, So for some people, I think COVID kind of had a silver lining. But
Well, it was certainly interesting for us, obviously, as as a company that works with all of the animation companies, right? Wacom being
mhm.
sort of the industry standard there. We had a great deal of interaction with a lot of our big customers who then had to equip their staffs to leave the studios and work at home full time. So we were we were working extremely hard to support everybody and fulfill all those needs.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, every studio that I've ever worked at has used Cintiqs. They are a fantastic investment. I mean, if you're serious about working in animation or becoming a storyboard artist or animation director or whatever, you're going to run into a Cintiq at some point. So you might as well just bite the bullet and get one. It's a business expense. It's sort of like the new set of tools. Every trades and craftsman has their set of tools, and for us, it's Cintiqs. So, anyways, we looked down the list, and Cartoon Crunch was right there. Is that playing, Peter? My screen doesn't seem to be updating. Let's try
Peter,
that
could
again.
you?
You had mentioned we were having technical difficulties.
Yep. I apologize to everyone. We're having a few technical difficulties right now, trying to get that. Pete says to refresh our browsers.
You got it, Peter.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Can you see it now? Fantastic. Okay. Let me see something really quick.
So, Mike, I don't know if people have missed part of our conversation, but let's continue on and start digging into Crunch.
Okay, great. All right, so here was the image that you guys didn't get to see for Never Stop Learning. And so we got down to Cartoon Crunch, okay? We're down into that, and this was one of the first things that we actually did get to see was the logo for Cartoon Crunch, which I had animated myself in Toon Boom Harmony, which was a really fun experience. I was working with a young lady, Vanessa Flores Castellanos, who was our designer, character designer for all of our early concept and marketing materials. So she was one of the first that had this image for Cartoon Crunch. Then my job was to sort of refine that and bring it into this animation space. So one of the ideas that we had early on for any kind of reality show, all of us are pretty familiar with the idea of the reality show, the idea of how those sort of work. Anybody who's seen something like, Survivor, MasterChef, one of those where they give them only just the bare minimum of time to accomplish this sort of monumental task. And we called that the crucible of creation, right? Where, for those of you who aren't familiar with the idea of the crucible is a small vessel, I guess you would say, that is ultra heated, and then it refines metals. And so that is sort of like this harsh taskmaster that ends up taking everything that is undesirable and filtering it out. And so that was the idea for why we wanted to do a 45-second animated short in 1 week. And that is a pretty huge task. But in that time period is where we have this this notion that you just don't have time to second guess yourself. You don't have time to noodle around and tool around for just that one perfect thing. You have to have a very visceral response to the work that you're doing. And we wanted it to be very inspirational. We wanted people to see it and then want to make their own animated content, which I think is very admirable. And I encourage people to make animated content all the time. And it led also back to this never stop learning, which was we wanted people to be inspired to keep learning, to keep growing, to keep understanding. And that's where the educational aspect of things came into play. We wanted it to be not only inspirational, but very worth people's time in getting something out of it. I was just in a conversation actually with one of the animation coordinators who I work closely with, and he was saying how much that he learned even passively from watching Cartoon Crunch, which was very cool for me to hear, because he has a great passion for animation himself. And just hearing that he was even able to glean some great education out of the watching of Cartoon Crunch, I thought was just a very cool thing to be able to hear. So education was a huge component of Cartoon Crunch from the very outset. The other thing was a certain actuality, a certain realness to it, an authenticity to sort of the struggle of animation. They say that anything that's worth doing is not only worth doing right, but is worth practicing enough to get it right. Investing that time, investing that effort. And art, I've had conversations with people, and I had some disputations with a friend of mine once who always talked about mastering certain things. I mastered this idea, I mastered this concept, or something like that. And with art, I feel like you can. It's really hard to ever truly become a master because it's a real lifelong endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's something where you're constantly evolving, constantly growing. If you keep going, if you stop, then you'll backslide, of course. Kind of like the Greek story about Sisyphus rolling up the hill, with that giant boulder up the hill. Art's very, very much in that same way. If you don't keep rolling that boulder, then you're going to slide back down. But we wanted that actual authentic feeling of what it's like to really struggle and push yourself and grow in that crucible of creation. So we didn't want to do anything that would sort of betray that idea and make people feel like it was not even real,
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's in the name, reality miniseries. So, and one of the things that I felt was really, really important when we started, conceptualizing Cartoon Crunch a little bit more, was the idea that it is not a competition. When we talk about standard reality show formats, Survivor, Big Brother, some of those other like big reality shows, it's them competing against one another, right? It's somebody getting the advantage over somebody else. And in this show, it wasn't about competition. It was about the struggle and about overcoming and about eventual triumph, right? And so pitting people against one another was never, ever, ever any idea that we wanted to have involved in Cartoon Crunch. That it was supposed to be a very supportive, a very positive and building experience. So then it was time.
That came through very, very clear in the whole concept that this was about teamwork. This was about cooperation. This was about a challenge, right? Where people had this very, very difficult goal, right? To actually produce an animated short from story concept all the way through to finished product. And we will see those finished products in a little while, and they're amazing. But to learn how to work as teams, and of course the being very geographically dispersed, all the participants, everything, and with COVID, everything was completely virtual. So they had to, along the way in that 1 week, really form those team bonds and that teamwork. And I think we'll get to some of that, but it's really incredible to see.
Absolutely. And so working with the Wacom Community Events team, we put together a team to pull Cartoon Crunch off with. So on the left, you'll see, for many of you, the familiar sight of Wacom Delta Force member Tom Fesson. Do you guys still refer to the Delta Force?
They're still there.
I know that was kind of a thing for a while.
Even online.
And Peter, who is running our tech, is also part of the Delta Force, I do believe.
Yep.
So joining was also Mr. Charles T. Jones, very good friend of mine, who I worked with at Disney Television. He's an Emmy Award-winning editor, and he joined us. And so Charles and I ended up spending long hours in post, and that was really great. And also the aforementioned Vanessa Flores Castellanos, who was our character designer for all of our early marketing to get the word out. We needed some cool, fun characters to sort of catch people's attention, right? Because soon we were going to be doing recruiting. And we needed some visuals to sort of help sell this idea of, submit your portfolio and, come join us on this cartoon making adventure. And then also we had our assistant editor and motion graphics animator, Laura Franke, who I had met at a previous CTNX and had become friends with, and she started helping us out on various projects. Like Animation Dance Party, I think, was one of the first things that she worked on, and well, not worked on, she was a contestant for, and ended up taking one of the prizes, I believe. So that was really cool. So Laura had been, doing some stuff with Wacom previously, so we brought her on to our Cartoon Crunch team. And then next we had our mentors, and if any of you know any of these people, they are just phenomenal in our industry. Jeff Ranjo has been in the features for a long time, working at Disney. I think he's working at Netflix right now. He's got his own little production company called Halo House. I hope I'm not butchering that, Jeff, if you're watching this. But Jeff was our story mentor, who sort of talked to all of our artists a little. And we're going to get into that, the days of how this thing was structured. But I had met Jeff years ago, not only at CalArts, but just being at various industry functions. And he's really funny. He's a cool guy. He's super, super chill. And he was very gracious in joining with us. And actually, all three of these mentors, if you go to Wacom's YouTube channel, like we keep telling you to, they did some webinars leading up to Cartoon Crunch. So you can see Jeff talk about story. You can watch Luciano Herrera, who I had also met on DuckTales, and he does these great, phenomenal paintings, and has done some art direction of his own on various short projects, I believe. So it was funny because Luciano was in sort of like the middle of art directing a short when I contacted him, or he was on the tail end of it. So he had a very interesting point of view because he was already in the thick of it. And then another person that I had met at Disney Television, Travis Blaze, who also has worked in the feature animation space for a long time, on projects going as far back as Mulan at Disney Feature Animation in the Florida unit. So Travis and I have been friends for quite some time. He has a cool little podcast called Sketch to Animate, where he does a lot of fun stuff. So I was able to go on that with him once, and that was a good time. But Travis is an amazing and fast animator, and quick funny story is in the very first Cintiq Showdown, Travis was one of our 16 artists, and in the 10 minutes that he got to draw, not only did he draw, but he animated his. I think he had I think it was like a 16 frame cycle or something that he animated in 10 minutes. And it was really, really, really cool. He's like, yeah, if I'm going to go, I'm going to go big. And then, of course, Charles came on, who was already, our editor, and he came on as our post mentor to talk about the ideas of editing, what editing and post brings to your project, as well as talking about music and things like that. And, of course, this other guy who we don't need to really talk about, who ended up hosting
I think we'll see a little more from them. But Mike, I just kind of wanted to emphasize what you said is that, not only did these mentors give of their time to the students, most of you guys extremely busy with real life projects, but super, super high quality, fantastic experience and knowledge, and it was really appreciated by everyone and the students. But I would emphasize that, as you said, all of Wacom's webinars are up on the YouTube channel. They are all completely free. People can watch them whenever they want. And all of these mentors did separate sessions leading into Crunch on their particular specialties. So for anyone interested in animation, I really encourage people to go watch those.
Yeah, they're a real wealth of knowledge, all those folks. We were trying to get some ladies to come on and help as mentors as well, but everyone that I had talked to was just so busy they couldn't get away. And but we were very, very happy and honored to have these gentlemen with us as our mentors. It was really a fantastic thing that we were able to get them when they were free.
So, Mike, I think just in the interest of time, let's get on into Crunch itself.
Okay, cool. So we started recruiting. We had two basic requirements, and the first was that they had to have an animation portfolio, and the second one was that they were to submit an application video. So we did them in this order. We only looked at animation portfolios, and then we picked our top picks from that. And then we went back and looked at the application videos for three different things. We wanted to see what their specialty was. We wanted to see what their aspirations in the animation industry were. And also kind of to check an on-screen personality, how they carried themselves, how they spoke, different things like that, to really get a nice mix of people. They also had to be... we had a problem in that we were doing recruiting from all across North and South America, and that brings into play time zones. So we split 8 artists into 2 teams. We had Team West and Team East, because not only is it difficult to produce a 45-second animated short in a week, it would make it that much more difficult with a 3-hour or 4-hour time difference in the case of one of our artists who we got from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. So we structured Cartoon Crunch according to the sort of basic stages of animation itself. So we started on day 1 with story, and then we go into design, then we headed into animation, and then post, right? So we followed the very logical order of that. And then we broke that up into the various days. So day 1 story, day 2 design, day 3 animation, day 4 also animation. So animation part 2, because that's the most lengthy part of the animation process. And then day 5 was post. And of course, little animation fixes and stuff here and there as post requires.
Mike, I would love to ask you. I've never asked you if, sure. Let's say that had been a commercial or something, a true professional commercial project for a 45-second. What do you think a normal timeline given to professionals would have been?
Oh, a few months. It depends on the turnaround that the client wants. A lot of that ends up being subjective, but I would say they would have at least a month and a half, if not longer.
And why were you and your fellow mentors so confident that they could pull this off in 7 days?
I guess the thought had never really entered my mind that they couldn't. I know that I having gone to animation school at Cal Arts and various things. There were 24-hour, 48-hour film jams that people would make a short animated thing in like 1 or 2 days. They were often very, very simple, and that's fine. And so I figured with 4 days, it would be very much in the animation jam style. And with 4 people on a team, even with the distance restrictions, that they could pull it off. I was very confident that it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. It would be hard, mind you, but not out of the realm of possibility. So,
all right, well, let's see how it went.
All right, cool. So we have a little clip to show you all. Let's go to clip number 1 to meet the Crunchers. We'll see who we got from the recruiting process. Welcome, everybody, to day 1 of Cartoon Crunch. Today, we are going to be focused on story. But before we do that, let's have introductions. Everybody, please, let's introduce ourselves. Dylan, why don't you go first?
My name is Dylan O'Keefe. I am an animator, director, illustrator, painter, a man of many things. I'm from New York, and I went to school at Fashion Institute of Technology.
Fantastic. How about you, Leanne?
Hi, I'm Leanne Schmidt. I'm a storyboarder and effects and character 2D animator. I'm from O'Fallon, Illinois, and I go to the Savannah College of Art and Design.
Great. Casey?
Hi, my name is Casey, and I am an illustration student at Moore College of Art and Design, and I'm interested in design for animation.
Wonderful. Kim?
Hey, my name is Kim. I'm an animator, musician, and graffiti artist from Brazil, and I attend Lipe Dias School of Visual Arts for traditional animation.
Right on. And this is our Team East. So comprising time zones that are on the more eastern side of the United States and Latin America. Okay, now for Team West. Serena.
Hi, I'm Serena Abraham. I'm an animation designer. I specialize in 2D animation. I'm studying at MIT Institute of Design, and I'm currently in Texas, Plano.
Fantastic. Brittany.
So my name is Brittany Ponsegra. I am from LA. I go to the Art Center College of Design, and my main focus is design.
Wonderful. Daniel.
Hello, my name is Daniel Whalen. I'm mostly a storyboard artist and 2D animator. I'm from Long Beach, and I go to Cal State Fullerton.
Wonderful. And Annie.
Hello, my name is Annie Bearden. I'm a character designer and 2D animator. I'm in Utah, and I go to Snow College.
So as you all are well aware, you are going to be breaking story today on your 45 seconds or less animated shorts. So let's talk a little bit about story. So the phrase is story is king. So you guys need to come up with a few things for your stories. Every good piece of media begins with a great story. So let's discuss a couple of the concepts that go into telling a really great story. So first of all, let's talk about compelling characters. What makes a character compelling in your eyes?
Oh, they have to face obstacles.
They need a goal, like something they really want to do. And that's why they will face those obstacles, and that's where conflicts come. And of course, they have to be cool. I think we all agree.
I believe a good character requires a strong personality, not in the sense that they are headstrong, but having personality traits in which a person can relate to, whether they're shy, timid, brave, maybe they're boisterous. I think those are very important elements to help enhance a story.
But to add on to that, the more relatable it is, the more somebody is compelled to see what happens to this character, whether it be character growth or whatever situation.
All right, great. So characters that are growing, you see a definite change from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. And you guys brought in the idea of conflict. Why is conflict so central to a story?
Well, if you don't have conflict, then nothing like important really happens, I suppose.
When something's
Yeah, because
really
nothing happens, right? You have a story without conflict. You don't really have much of a story, do you?
I like the dog barking in the background. That sounds like most of my calls.
I know. Every once in a while, when we were in the middle of principal photography, there would be the sound of an airplane or a jackhammer or something that was just like, really, right now, you know. But there's nothing you can do about that. I think the guy across the alleyway in my condo complex, I think he was getting his garage redone at the time, so we had some fun little sounds going on right there.
So I know you and Jeff had some very great advice around story, and obviously, you know, we're just showing little clips here of what the participants went through. But just how long did they have to really come up with these storylines?
Not terribly long. I mean, in conversation with a few of them, after they had received their emails where they said, we'd like you to join us as a featured artist in Cartoon Crunch, I think all of them kind of had something that they were working on in the back of their head where they're like, well, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do this. And then they all got together and, you know, started working on it. We had some segments. So each day was segmented into certain parts. And if you could start rolling some of those segment clips, Peter, that'd be good. That'd be fantastic. So the first part was the morning brief. So everybody would get up and call time was 8 a.m. And we would all start talking about what we were going to do for that day. So in this particular, I think this is day 4 or something that we're actually showing. But like day 1 started out with stories. So today, like we saw in the clip, we're breaking story today. You guys have a little bit of time in the morning to start fleshing out your stories and getting ready for the afternoon. And so let's go to segment 2 clip where we sent them back to basically work amongst themselves, like to talk, to do some drawings, and they would take that time in the morning hours to conceptualize and to get some things ready to show to the professional mentor later on that afternoon. So they would just go and just feverishly start working. That's actually real time. What you're seeing right there, that's all real time. No, I'm just kidding. That's impossible. But I feel like it's real time because they just got so much work accomplished. And so they would go back and get together as a team. They had like private Zoom meetings or Google Hangouts or things like that to coordinate as a team. And then they would present, and we'll go to the next segment and talk about that. They had their mentor visit. So this is Jeff Ranjo's first a little bit. But those afternoon hours, I think usually our time to get on there was sort of around like 12:30, 1 o'clock area. And they would show the mentor what they had accomplished that morning. And then he would talk to them about it. And he would, you know, go over some of the things that he thought were important or things to watch out for, tips and tricks. I know that Jeff had some stuff. We have some clips and a highlight reel to show you of day 1 in a few minutes. But those mentor visits became sort of the bulk of the show. And then after the mentor visits, we would send them back to go work some more. And then let's go to segment clip number 4. And so we would have evening interviews. So what you're not seeing here is me on the other side of that talking with them, asking them questions. So we only featured the artists because this wasn't about me. This was about them, you know. And that was one of the things that we really, really were striving for, was not to necessarily make it about the mentors, but to make it about the artists, the featured artists that we had, to show their feelings, to show like what they struggled with, what their problems were, things that came around. If there was any sort of team strife or troubles, or if they were just sailing on through. And that was really important for us to show, especially when we were in the editing room, to show that it's hard. You know, animation can be a really hard experience, but very rewarding when you get it right. You know, those struggles, those feelings of self-doubt that we all deal with, and then the eventual, triumph. And then compounded by the fact it was only a week, and by the end of the week, they were all exhausted. And I mean, as their mentor, I was kind of conflicted, as the lead mentor, because I was like, oh man, I just want you guys to be able to go get some sleep and just have a good day. But as a filmmaker, I was like, oh, pay dirt, this is awesome. So as a filmmaker, I wanted to see conflict here and there a little bit, not everything. And we did get a little bit of that in the show. But as a mentor, I was like, oh man, come on. I just want to jump in there and fix it for you guys. But you can't do that. It's because it wasn't about us as mentors. It was about them and their struggles. So we have also a little clip to show of our clip number 1, or clip number 2, excuse me, of one of our crunchers, is what I ended up calling them, Kim and Jeff Ranjo. So let's play clip number 2.
We want to have this vibe, as Dylan said, like in everything. Like we even split by different colors here because we probably have different palettes for those moments. First, she's like completely lonely, and then it gets like really sinister. She's like, looking at those pals, and she gets this look on her face like, and we think like she's evil, so she starts throwing all those things like, and in the end, when this hands come out and grabs her, and she's like, oh, and then it's just like her husband. So it's a sweet moment, actually. It wasn't like all sinister, and she hugs them, and it's actually comfortable. It's really cute.
Okay, so story-wise, I was just, when I first heard the story, I thought, like, when you think of witches, you think, I'm not trying to change the story, but I just thought it was going to be her broom or a cat or something, just something that you immediately like, oh, what do you think of as a witch? But when I think of a witch, I don't necessarily think of the husband, a witch being married right away, just because, in lore, they're always alone and stuff. But I do like, if we're trying to change the script here, like why can't witches get married? So, but I do like, that nice twist at the end where they're actually in love, but he's still, a zombie. It seems like it's totally,
sorry, spoiler alert for Jeff,
doable. I usually, like in a story, there's like a 1, 2, 3 thing where like she's like, she tries something and then she fails, and then she tries something again and then it fails, and then there's one more thing. Like, it sounds like, I know this is 45 seconds, so I might not do that at this point, because you just kind of want stuff to happen. So maybe you might want to think about her, like when you push into their living room, maybe you see some things about their life living together, so you get a few images.
Yeah.
Not like photos. I wouldn't say photos, but like maybe he's got I know you have the hat, but maybe it's an actual like dimensional push in or something, or a pan. I think if we're more, what are you guys working in animation wise? Like it's a pretty 2D.
Yeah, I think, it's going to be 2D. I mean, I think what we're going to probably do is Toon Boom and then After Effects it. So yeah, we could do a zoom or a pan or whatever suits it.
Yeah. So as long as you get some of those things about, what their life was together, you end on his hat. But maybe she tries a few things in the beginning that maybe like she has a rant, like in story, you want to see a character arc. So you want to see her like sad in the beginning, and then she gets hopeful, and then then she doesn't know what to do. Maybe she's like, oh, I've run out of ideas, like nothing's happening. And then maybe she gets the idea of the hat. And then that's the last thing that she throws in. Because you want
Like
to
some
care.
failed experiments.
Yeah, she's like throwing first like just a few things and no effects happen. Like the anticipation of like something and then nothing. And then she's like, oh, how about this? And then, oh, and then maybe you don't show it, but then maybe the last, like, I got it. And then she grabs the hat or something, like be on her face. And she's like, I don't know what to do. I got it. And then she gets the hat at the last second, throws it in. And then maybe the reveal is a big, like, big moment. Think about timing of like building this anticipation to this one big reveal. And then the reveal, the expectation is he's going to be fully restored, right? Like a human. Maybe you set that up in the beginning where you might see what he looked like before. And I don't want to do pictures because they didn't have pictures, or sculpture or something. And then the expectation of a human, but then the cloud, the smoke parts, and then he's a zombie.
So, Mike, I think, we could see, just how valuable that mentorship was in helping people talk through those different phases of animation and what was kind of really going on each of those days. I think maybe we don't need to go into each of the dailies in the interest of time, but kind of move forward in the process and the progress of where the teams got to with their stories and their animations.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, day 2 was all about design, and Luciano had, talked to them at length about a couple things. Let's just quickly roll clip number 4. I think in the interest of time, we're going to skip number 3, but let's just go to clip number 4.
Before you start working on your backgrounds and all that stuff, which you already have your keys, which is great. I think you need to condense, and I think you need to figure out exactly what shots you need.
Right.
That will save you time in the long run because you also will build your shots with the assets you have.
Right.
It will make, and also it will make your story tighter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you need as many shots as you have. I don't think you need as many camera changes as you have.
Mm-hmm.
I will save that more for the action sequence. And then in the action sequence, you don't necessarily need to have backgrounds that are very elaborate. You could use shapes and color cards or whatever it is. So use the element of 2D animation in your favor. When you're using action, the backgrounds are kind of a distraction. So you want to focus on your characters, and you want to focus on your effects or whatever it is that you're trying to do. I think you guys are in a very good shape where you're going. I think your silhouettes are working for your bot. The baby is a great silhouette as well. Just be careful with it looking too much like everything else you've seen before. You wanna have a little bit of something that is yours with it. That being said, it's pretty cute. It's nice.
All right, so I'm going to show you a little bit of their development artwork that they did. So let's go back to the PowerPoint here. So this was some of the development artwork that Team West had done during the design phase. So you kind of saw a little glimpse of this different color palettes for the baby. And then this little princess there, her royal court design. And then this knight who was defending the princess, and then some various designs for what the throne might look like, how it should be shaped, and all of those were sort of symbolic of an idea of that later on in the film you see sort of a fantasy versus a real life situation, and that sort of played into some of the design of that particular short. Here was some designs of the villain, which was a Roomba robot, who we find out in the film, as the antagonist of the dog. Also, here's some background designs that they had done, and these were some of the ending title cards and some of the final background shots. Here's some development from Team East with their short entitled Witchy Business. So just a lot of exploratory work during this phase, just trying to figuring out and quickly doing so to get in line with what they wanted to animate. So you see up in the top left, there's just a lot of different options, a lot of different styles and stuff. And then they sort of set that down into something that they could animate. Here they're experimenting with things like color palette for the eventual color animation. And also some of the exploratory character stuff, like how the character moves, how they bend, how they act. What are some of the more common acting choices that you can do with that character? And then here was some more exploratory work in how the two characters related to one another, and again how to construct that character when drawing her. Some of the things you don't really necessarily think about going into watching an animated show, how two characters look standing next to one another, or how they relate to one another, or how they how their coloring can help or hurt the mood that you're going for. In this case, and you heard Kim talk about it a little bit, they wanted different color palettes for different areas of the film, where it started with sort of like some mysterious, magical looking colors, and eventually it becomes a very tonic color, something that's easy for your eye to settle on as things sort of wrap up.
I think it's just amazing that the amount of exploration they did, really, with 1 or 2 days per phase. Just incredible work.
Yeah, they were all just so fast, and I think in the very beginning stages, everybody was all on the same page. They were throwing out ideas. They were super excited. They still had a lot of energy too, because it was early on in the process. So, I mean, as time dragged on, the physical demand, I guess I would say, started. You could see that coming out as people got more tired and stuff. You could see that in the show. But then we got into animation. So animation was day 3 and 4, because we wanted to talk in day 3 more about the rough animation, and in day 4 a little bit more of the nuance and the polish of animation, because animation goes through a couple different stages. You have bringing it in, from storyboard, and start doing rough drawings and start doing rough timing, and really building those tent poles in there as far as what you're going to look like in the full eventual color, and refining and refining and refining it until you get into that area where it's clean drawings with color. And so we had Travis Blaze on for 2 of the 5 days, and we have a clip. Let's see. Let's run clip number. Huh?
Okay. I think, after Travis, we should probably, just in the interest of time, get into letting people see the final product.
Great. That's awesome.
Okay.
You know what? Let's just run the clip from Travis, and we'll probably just cut it short a little bit.
Okay.
I do have one comment about the Dog Knight, though. Look at his ear going straight up into that line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's just a little nudge over, but you know.
Yeah, it's all of these are little tangents. You're going to hear a lot about that when you get into production, watching tangents, watching your lines, things that are getting too close to the edge, or like what you're saying, like with the ear is literally going right up the line of the column, which what that does is it flattens the depth that you're trying to create. When you create tangents typically flatten out a look or feel of what you're trying to accomplish. So by shifting him over slightly more, it's a simple fix.
I kind of want to see him standing there with his sword like this, in that sort of. That's good, Peter. You know. And then let's just really quickly run the clip of Charles of clip number 7, I believe, where he talks about defending your decisions in post. We'll just run that really fast.
Make sure you don't cut too soon, but make sure that it's sped up enough so where it feels like he's dashing off.
Yeah, exactly.
We actually tried a transition for that shot. Could I show it?
Please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it looks really good, I feel.
Okay, give me a second. All right, so we just did a quick transition to try and do the split screen a little different.
Very nice. That helps a lot.
So it doesn't leave the frame that way.
Yeah.
Oh, hey. That works.
I think that's great, yeah. Yeah, I try not to let anybody leave the frame much anyway. And I hope that maybe you can speed that transition to slam a little bit, or maybe do something where it kind of, like there's a camera shake. That would be really epic,
Yeah.
But just my 2 pennies on that.
Cool.
Is there a reason for the little bar in between? So there's the black line, then there's a yellow line, and a black line again?
You mean on the split screen, Mike?
Yeah, on the split screen.
It was just to add some differentiating factor, because the line art on the characters are also black, so it looked a little weird.
Okay, sure.
It looks good. Yeah, I think that looks good.
Sure. Well, I just want to know that there's a justification to your decisions.
Yeah, I think that's a good note, Mike, because I went to Art Center College of Design, and that was one of the things the teachers would always say. The instructors would always emphasize, if you can't defend your decision, then you're really not directing, are you? Which I always thought was the harshest thing to ever say to me, but well, I think that's awesome, Mike. You got to be able to defend every shot. That's great.
Yep. Well, you know what? I truly believe that a harsh taskmaster makes for better artists.
Yeah.
It's like those old kung fu movies where they just go through just torture, but at the end they're awesome.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys haven't felt necessarily tortured, but I hope at the end of this you guys feel awesome for having gone through making a short film in a week. Okay. Cool. So I think, Don, it's time. It's time to show what the results were.
Absolutely.
Okay, so first we're going to see a clip that was the final film from Team East, followed by the final version of the film from Team West.
So those are just truly awesome. I mean, those are absolutely fantastic, professional quality, beautiful pieces. So could you just expand a little more? I mean, I would love to see from the students what they thought about the participants, the young animators, what they thought about the whole process and what their feedback was.
I think we have a clip for that. Let's roll clip 9.
Well, I'm really glad I did this. Like, I'm so glad I signed up to do this because I almost didn't. I was like, I probably won't get in. But now I'm like, this was a good choice to do this because I had a great time working with everyone, and I feel like I learned a whole lot, not just about doing like getting better at animation, but getting better at just working with people, organizing a team, and just like, doing stuff on a deadline too, so that you can't make everything perfect, but you got to make things good as you can with the time you have.
This taught me how a team project goes rather than a solo project. So I thought it was pretty great. It was a really good experience and fun.
I mean, it's been awesome because it's like, working with people is a great skill to have. And like people that you just met, or not even met, like virtually met. I feel like it's like impressive that we were able to pull together this short. I'm like excited for it. I think it's awesome. The music is making it so cool. Yeah, I mean, it's stressful, but I was saying to my parents before, I was like saying it's like an analogy, sort of like how like on those old TV shows, like a dad catches his son smoking and he makes him smoke the whole pack because it's like, it'll teach him to never do it again, sort of thing. Like, not that I'm never gonna do this again, but it's like a week long short. I don't know if I would sign up for it, knowing it would be, you know what I mean? It's like it's a lot of work, especially for 4 people. But we're cranking it out. She's almost done. She's looking beautiful. I'm excited.
I think it's been a really amazing experience, especially with the whole like even in regular group projects or situations like those, there's something about this that really ups the whole excitement, and there's like this whole learning factor that comes into place where you're trying to figure out how to work with your teammates. You're also equally just as passionate about the work you're doing. Everyone just wants to put their best foot forward, and I think that's pretty amazing, especially since you pick up on other people's techniques. You learn from each other. You learn how to interact. I think it's overall been like an amazing experience from a lot of different angles.
It's been a really hard and fast learning curve. Kind of getting to see this feels like production. It feels more like what I will do in the future. As like a whole, this is giving me a really cool experience that I don't think I would have gotten in a different environment if I had done something with friends or if I had just kind of like done something at school. I think as a whole, it's really like eye-opening, and it's also helping me ground myself as an animator and find out who I am, what I can do in a time crunch, and my strengths and things that I need to work on as well.
It's been really insane, honestly. Like, I never have done anything like this before. I've never had to do this much work in such a small amount of time, at least that I can remember. Like, it feels like a lot right now, and I'm really happy with the team. I really think that we have made something that we're all happy with. We're all going to be proud of once it's finally done, and I can't wait for everyone to see it.
It's because it's so immersive to be in this experience and dealing with so many things, because we did accomplish a lot of things for a week. And when you do a lot, you experience a lot, and it feels like it was longer.
It is weird. It feels like this has been like a really long, like, oh, we've been doing this for so long. I think it's the amount of work we produced in such a little time.
It feels
feels like we've been on here for months.
Well done to all my teammates. I would not have gotten here. We would not have been able to do this if we didn't all work together, and we worked so well. I can't believe it worked out so well with us.
Until like 3 days ago, I'd never used Toon Boom before, so I was so nervous about like using it for the first time. And then like when we were assigning animation parts, they were like, "Oh, Casey, you can do the longest part," and I was like, "Oh no," and I ended up not doing that. I was like, "Guys, I don't know if I could do this. I've never used Toon Boom before." But honestly, like after like just getting used to it, I realized like it wasn't as hard as I was making it out to be in my mind, and I'm really happy with it. I really like using Toon Boom, and I think that I'm a lot more confident at animating now, to be honest.
That's gonna be so cool. Like, you know what I mean? We're the first season. First season's always the best, or first 4, whatever. But yeah, I just think it's awesome. And you know, I've been the biggest supporter of Wacom since day one. Well, I called it Wacom for probably the first 2 years, and then someone was like, "It's Wacom," and then I was like, now I'm the one correcting people. It's funny how that works, but.
I really see this working for like a global potential for people all around the world to learn animation and have this opportunity with you guys. So thank you for me and for those people.
Okay, well, I would just like to say that I think, you know, we have a long list of people to thank, but I think that the objectives of certainly having a summer educational experience really focused upon students. We did separate programs for teachers, but for students, and showing that process of animation was incredible. I think the mentorship was obviously really, really great for these young people who are primarily students. To learn about animation, to learn about it from you, Mike, and from all of the mentors was really great. You know, from a Wacom standpoint, huge kudos and thanks to you and all of the mentors. But we also have, I think you have a slide, we have a lot of partners who help support this. So it wasn't just Wacom. Do you want to bring that one up?
Sure. First, let me just put on the featured artist social media handle. So if any of you want to follow any of these crunchers, as we call them now, please feel free to screenshot that really quick or something, and you can just check them out. But we had an amazing group of sponsors. Oh, before I do that too, here's where you can find Cartoon Crunch. You can watch the entire series. Please do. It's really was a labor of love, and I feel like you will get a good deal out of it too. But to our sponsors. So we had some incredible sponsors that all chipped in to help us actually bring this to pass. Staples Canada, NX Pro, B&H, and Toon Boom Animation. Toon Boom provided the software for the Wacom hardware, and they were really instrumental in helping. All of them were really instrumental in helping us get this thing off the planning board and into reality.
Yeah, I think it was a fantastic experience for everyone involved. Incredibly enjoyable to watch. Certainly from a Wacom standpoint, at least I believe this is the first time we've tried anything in a reality show format. So a lot of internal learnings, but to that end, there was an amazing Wacom team that really worked on this. As you had said before, special thanks to Tom Feston. Co-produced this, but Melissa, Elizabeth, Shireen, Pete, Tom, everybody working on this to put this together, and really, to get it out there into the world. And I think
Pamela Park as well,
and Pam, yep, just a fantastic group of people working on this and popularizing it. Actually, all of our business streams worked on this with the partners. So. Very proud of everyone and everything that was done. Incredibly thankful to you, Mike, for putting this together. I know that you're incredibly busy with your day job. you know, as a director of animation. So we thank you for taking the time and spending the extra sleepless hours at night doing this. And just a huge, huge thank you to all the participants. They were fantastic.
Yeah, and also thank you, Don. I know when we came to you with this idea that it was kind of like a very untested thing for. So thank you for taking the chance on it. I really feel like we made something special.
Yep, fantastic. Well, thank you. And yep, we'll look forward to the next brainstorm and projects to come.
Great, fantastic. Do we have any other questions you want to ask before we go? Or shall we just wrap it on up?
We just have a few minutes. I think Pete was just going to roll the videos again as we close out.
Great.
Pete, you want to roll those
See
again?
everybody.